Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to St. Robert's Day Game Podcast. And in this podcast episode, we're going to talk about vibe, or what is important, vibe, or technically good game. Because, well, sometimes you're out your day gaming, and things just work. You're in a really good mood, you're positive, you're happy, you're kind of cheeky, and you can't wait to open those checks. And those sets are usually going really good. You're getting numbers, and those numbers are responding, so it's great. While in other times, you just kind of have really bad vibe, you're in a shittier mood, you get blowout after blowout, and you have to force yourself to open any girl. It kind of almost feels like work. This podcast episode I'm recording kind of real quick while sitting in a coffee shop in Ukraine before I coach a student. I have a bunch of notes on my laptop, so I'll be kind of going over them and talking about all of this. But in general, we're talking about what is having a good or bad vibe, and we're going to talk about what is more important: learning to have a good vibe or having a technically good game. And the answer might actually surprise you. But before we get into this topic, let's talk about a few things about day game coaching in Europe, and also a bit for the guys that are in USA, Canada, and in general on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. So there are 2 coaching spots left available in September. It can be in Ukraine, or it can be in an easier day game city in Europe, and I have 4 day game coaching spots left in October in Spain. I don't like the cold weather, so I decided to spend my October in Spain, in some warmer parts of Spain, and I've heard really good things about several cities in Spain. So if you want to learn day game in a warm place, then fuck it, join me there. And if you want to find out more about dates and prices and everything else, then send me an email to robert@strobert.blog. It is robert@strobert.blog. Or go to my website on the top menu, click on Learn Day Game. And I also recently published a video explaining everything you need to know about day game coaching in Europe until the end of this season before I leave to Central and South America. You can simply go and watch that. Okay, and now let's start talking about our lovely topic, vibe versus technique. Well, here in Ukraine, my good vibe is what gets around actually 3/4 of girls that I open to stop. So I'm getting very few blowouts, I'm getting very few negative reactions. So yes, vibe is extremely important. Actually, while I was coaching Garby on day 1, I wanted, because he was getting blowouts and blowouts and blowouts, and I wanted to show him that, yeah, I also get blown out once in a while, and I tried to show him blowout. I did 8 sets. Which ended in 7 numbers, and 1 set that was like 6 minutes long. I didn't get the number in the end, but it was still a long set, so I just couldn't get a blowout. While now, well, after I've been here for a while, I've gotten used to the city, I've gotten a tiny bit robotic. Well, yes, I do start getting more blowouts. But yes, vibe is extremely important for me. And that's why when I arrive at a city, I sometimes do better than after I've been there for a while. And this especially applies for easier cities. It might not be the case in a place like Ukraine or in a place like Serbia or maybe New York City. But if you're going to day game to a place like Poland or Czech Republics or maybe UK, then yeah, after arriving in the city and seeing, oh my God, this is so beautiful, this is so new, and you're so excited, you're so happy, that yes, that positive energy will actually get you better results. While, well, it's not necessarily true in places like I said, like Ukraine and Serbia. When I have a good vibe, most girls will stop and at least have a short conversation. But when I have a shittier vibe and I'm not in such a great vibe, well, maybe half or even less will stay in a set longer than a minute. And you might think that a minute is long, but actually when you do the stop, pre-opener, opener, and stack correctly, delivering only that stuff will maybe take you 30 seconds maybe at least. So actually all I'm getting done in a minute is maybe getting a topic, teasing her a little bit, telling like a short story and a middle of the story, so she just leaves. So yes, in a good vibe, and I'm in a good vibe in a city like this, 3/4 of them will stop and will actually have at least some conversation, while when I'm in a shitty vibe, maximum 50% uh, will stop. So if vibe is so effective to getting longer sets and getting more numbers and just great results in general, so why am I so technical when I'm teaching day game? Why are my YouTube videos and podcasts mostly about technical game, especially videos? Because videos are always technical, and podcasts like this ones is more about like, me chatting about things and explaining some concepts. So why am I obsessed with technical game? Why do I teach day game in such a technical way? Well, actually, me being a fan, day game results being so reliant on vibe is why I don't really like group coaching. Because in group coaching, when you have like, let's say 4 dudes get together and they have a few coaches, well, why I'm not a big fan of that? You have a bunch of dudes together, they're partying together, they're kind of encouraging each other. It's this great energy. Everyone's kind of pumped up, and their game is relying on good vibe. And after the coaching, they go back home, and all of a sudden they have zero game because they were getting good reactions from girls because of the good vibe, not because they actually learned technically good game. That's why I'm such a big fan of technical game. But so if you learn good technical game, you can get results even without having good vibe. You're not gonna be a great day gamer, you're not gonna get like all the chicks in the fucking world, but you can get laid without knowing anything about the vibe and relying 100% on your technical game. Well, of course, we'll talk a bit later about, well, can you have both? And actually, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it now. Can you have both? Can you have technically good game and also rely on your vibe? Yes, and that is actually the secret to success in day game. It's to have both technique and vibe. If you have just technique, less girls will stop. Less girls will stay in sets, but you will get some numbers, not like all of them, but less girls will stop, less girls will stay in sets. You'll get some numbers, you'll get some dates, and you'll get some results. Like technique can get you results. If it's just vibe but you're lacking technical game, girls will stop and they will stay in sets and they will like the sets and they will very gladly give you their numbers because it was such a good vibe, such a good energy, so positive, so amazing, they liked it. But those numbers will flake because those sets were based on emotion and there was no substance. So when they leave the set, leaving really great, oh my god, it was such an interesting dude, such a great interaction. Those emotions go away after a while because emotions are just chemicals in your brain, and when the body absorbs those, kind of uses those chemicals and they're gone, they're kind of left with their logical thinking and they're like, wait, like, what was that guy all about? I mean, he was fun, he was like funny, but I don't know shit about him. We didn't really have a real conversation. Like, he was maybe kind of too interested in me. He was kind of too funny, too jumpy. It's like, well, what was that? And boom, you get many numbers if you rely on vibe, but maybe more numbers, but those numbers will very, very flaky. Actually, I would say if you rely only on technical game or only in vibe, maybe the open to number ratio will be the same. It's hard to say actually. Like, maybe you could get like the same amount of dates relying only on technique or relying only on vibe. Like, I would have to give this a bit more thought, and I didn't give this, like, it just came to my mind, so I don't want to kind of like spit out something stupid, but let's say you can get similar results only based on technique or only based on really, really good vibe. Well, what happens when you have both vibe and technique? Well, they stop. They stay in the set. They like you. They will give you their numbers and they will come out on dates. And when they come out on dates, since you were both a guy that's super positive in a nice energy and like cheeky, and you were also, this conversation had a substance, so she knows that she will feel good with you, but she also feels comfortable with you because she knows something about you, you know something about her, you kind of have this connection. So they will actually usually have a very good attitude on the date towards everything. It's not like when you go on dates and she's kind of bitchy, and sometimes it happens like that. Especially if you've done online dates, then you know the difference between day game dates and online dates. Where they come on an online date, then like a date that's from online, and the attitude is just different. So you're not going to see that. You're going to see very good attitude on dates. Well, but actually, still a lot of numbers will flake. Why? And this is interesting because if you had really good vibe and really good technique, those sets were so good that you actually got a lot of numbers from chicks that have boyfriends that they're not cheating on and husbands that they're not cheating on. So they were basically mesmerized and forgot about that, forgot about everything. They liked you so much. I've seen this. I've seen this a lot where I have a session that goes so good, and then I go home and I get these messages. Yeah, sorry, like I have a husband, and but still a lot of numbers respond. I get a ton of dates, but you know that because of how good it is, they were so mesmerized they forgot about everything else. Okay, so you know how to get good technical game. I mean, you want to get good technical game. If you are a wunderkind, then watch videos online, learn game on your own. Maybe you'll succeed. And you know my stance on this if you've been following my podcast and my videos. If you haven't succeeded in, let's say, 6 months, then, well, you're probably not going to succeed. Very few guys succeed on their own if it takes them more than 6 months. If you've been doing this more than 6 months, then, well, you'll sooner or later have to get day game coaching, and it's just the way it is. But okay, that's about technical game. So how do you get a good vibe? Because it's so important. Well, that's the shitty thing. You can't get good vibe artificially. It doesn't work like that. That's why there is so much mental masturbation about meditation and building your value, your sexual market value, and other stuff. Because yes, all of that stuff can kind of increase your vibe. Meditation can increase your vibe, and many other things. I'll talk at the end of this podcast about specific tips you can actually do to increase your vibe, but the effectiveness is way smaller than getting better technical game. So yeah, all of that stuff can increase your game, and it's true. And you should think about doing all of that stuff after you have good technical game. Happier life, better vibe, yes, but let's not talk about this because it's simply a way to avoid actually overcoming your fears, taking real action, and learning good game. First, you should focus on that, and then on meditating, building your value, blah blah blah. It's all important stuff, but first you need good technical game. So you cannot learn to have good technical vibe. That being said, as I said at the end of this podcast, I'll give you a few pointers, a few tips. But good vibe comes after learning good technical game, and let's talk about this because this is the most important part of this podcast. I came up with this idea when coaching a student yesterday in field who was getting blown out nonstop because of having a pretty bad vibe. So the idea of how you get good vibe is, well, you keep banging your head against the wall enough times the right way, and you'll start getting more than just flaky numbers. You'll start getting numbers that respond, you'll start getting dates, and you keep banging your head against the wall, and one of those dates will end in a lay. Lays get you more confidence in your game, a bit of swag. Like I remember when I did my first day game open. If you've been following my podcast, you know that I struggled for 2 weeks. I was going out almost every day for around 2 hours every time to do my first day game open. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't overcome the fear. But then one evening, I got a lay from like a completely different source. I got laid. I stayed at the chick's place, and in the morning, as I was walking home, I was like in such a swag, like, I just did this. She was so hot, yeah. And I saw a chick, and I was just in such a good vibe that I just went and opened. I did my first ever day game open. So yes, your lays get you more confident, cockier, cheekier. You have a bit of a better vibe, and if you're lucky enough to keep getting more results, it means you keep banging your head against the wall and you get more results. It improves even more, your vibe becomes even better, and here you are getting results left and right because you kept banging your head against the wall earlier. And I'm not here, this is important, I'm not talking about spam approaching and doing shit game. I'm talking about doing technically good sets. And why I'm saying it is because most of day gamers, and I'm talking way over 90% of day gamers that I've met, that I haven't worked with, but the guys that I've met, like random people on the street, almost all of them have had really, really terrible game. And if you're good at day game and you watch most infields on YouTube, but this is if you're good at day game, and you watch most infields on YouTube, you will actually see that even the coaches that are putting out YouTube videos on infields, most of those infields are demonstrating really, really bad game. But again, it's not the topic of today. You just have to understand. I'm not talking when I'm talking banging about banging your head against the wall. Against the wall, I'm not talking about spam approaching. I'm talking about doing technically good game. Uh, so, and if I'm looking, I thought about how this applies to my game and how it affects my game, and it's been fairly simple. When I go to a new city that I'm scared of, for example, I was talking earlier this year after Mexico, I went to Serbia, and the first time I was in Serbia, I got pretty much destroyed day game wise. It really fucked with my ego and with my confidence about my game. So going back to Serbia was really, really scary. I was afraid to getting to be destroyed again, and I went there and I could barely approach. My vibe was terrible, and I could barely like, okay, I got to do one approach. I got to do like 4 approaches this day, and I kept kind of working. I kept pushing myself, but sometimes I went out. I couldn't even do a single open. But I kept pushing myself. I kept doing technically good game until I got results. And as soon as I started getting some results, the vibe got better, and boom, the results started coming. So all that I'm saying is you keep doing technically good game, you start getting results, and then your vibe will improve. And that's kind of my view on this. Okay, but I told you that I'm gonna give a few technical tips to improve your vibe. It's not gonna be anything like life changing, because again, vibe doesn't really change from doing vibe doesn't change that much from doing like outside stuff. But let's go over a few things. So number one, if you're talking about day game travel, this more applies to day game travel. Also, if you live in the city and day game there, but mostly for day game travel is do more than just day game in the city that you're at. If all you're doing is going out every day, hitting the same streets and doing the same stuff, then well, it's gonna suck. You go sightseeing, go explore the city. There's probably a lot to do in every city. I don't know, like go to a shooting range, go hiking, go whatever the fuck you want to do. Here in Ukraine, I went wakeboarding, and during this weekend, I'm heading over to another town, to another city with a chick just for a longer weekend, so that I'm doing something else, not just day gaming. Okay, some more mental masturbation. Focus on the positives in your life. I sometimes get depressed, and it kind of not really depressed, but kind of my mind sometimes fucks with my confidence. And what I started doing some years ago, I forced myself to focus on the positives in my life. On every evening, I just think about three ways I succeeded in that day. I have a reminder on my phone, just to train myself to focus on the positives, because that really helps my vibe. And even if it was a day where I woke up, I watched Netflix and ate shitty food all day and did nothing, I'll still think about like three things I did right in that day. So that's another thing that helps me. And the next one, if you're talking about vibe, is weed. You have to look at how weed affects you. If you're a weed smoker, for example, I have a love-hate relationship with weed. Sometimes it really helps me, but if I do it too often or for too long, I start getting this apathy feeling, kind of a bit depressed, a bit kind of I don't want to do anything, I don't give a fuck, and kind of like a shitty vibe. And I only want to watch like Netflix and eat shit food and smoke some more weed. So pay attention to that. If you're smoking too much and you know that you're depressed, well, take a few months off. You can do your research online. It takes around 2 months for your body to completely clear it out of your system. Like most of it will be out of your system very fast, but it takes around 2 months for your body to completely reset. Next one, and again a bit of mental masturbation. Yeah, fix your physical state. If your sleep is shit, and something that helped me fix my sleep, I bought an Aura ring last year when I was in Portugal, and that just really showed me how different habits affect my sleep. So if your sleep is shit, I'd say stop drinking in the evenings, stop smoking weed in the evenings. Those things really fuck with your sleep, and if you have an Apple Watch or some other sleep tracker, you can kind of pay attention to what's happening with your sleep. If you've had some drinks before you go to bed, or if you smoked a joint, or if you've had, well, also pay attention to how coffee affects your sleep, because I've stopped drinking coffee because I really realized it fucks with my sleep, and that's really important for me. But if it's something that you see isn't perfect, if you're not sleeping that well, then definitely fix those things. Okay, next mental masturbation is focus on the wins in the game. So this is very typical where when I coach students, they go in a set, they come out and they're like, oh, well, I did this thing very bad and that fucking sucked and that was shit. It's fucking terrible. And then they get number and they're like, oh, she didn't agree to come out on a date with me. Like it's the first number the guy gets and he's really pissed that a chick doesn't come out on a date with him. Or you go out on a date from a day game and you don't get LA and well, like what? You got a fucking date with a chick you met on the street. That's incredible. So you should be fucking happy about it. Or a great example was Arby, who goes out on a date and gets LA, and then he's like, yeah, but like she was beautiful, but she wasn't a fucking stunner. Like, dude, you just got your first day in LA, like, and you should be like jumping around like a little kid, being super excited, but instead guys are really good at complaining. So learn to focus on positives in the game. I mean, understand that you haven't done that much that much before. You don't have good game. You are where you are. Nobody owes you shit. You're not entitled to getting any results. Your game is where it is. You're probably a beginner. I mean, uh, you're probably just starting out, so you have to understand it is where it is, understand where you're starting from, and go from there. Don't expect anything. You gotta do the work. You gotta do the right type of work, and then maybe you'll start getting results a few months later. So yeah, stop expecting results and don't compare yourself to others. Especially don't compare yourself to me or other known day gamers, because I've been doing this stuff for years. I've been coaching this stuff for years, so you can't really expect to get the type of results that experienced day gamers are getting. You have to understand that if you are starting out and if you're getting one lay out of 100 opens, you're actually doing pretty fucking good for a beginner. If you're getting one lay out of 60 opens, you're doing really, really, really good for a beginner. You're at intermediate level at that moment. You really, really have game at that moment. And will you ever make the 1 out of 30? It's actually highly unlikely. There aren't that many guys in the world that are getting 1 out of 30 in more than one countries. Yeah, if you live in one place, then you can kind of get it after a few years if you're really good. But traveling and getting 1 out of 30 in different countries is really, really tough. So stop comparing yourselves. Don't do that. And another thing that really helps me, and this is why I traveled so much, and this is why I went to the Mexico for 4 months or 3.5 last year, and this is why I'm spending October in Spain and then going to Central and South America. Is I really hate winter. It kind of also puts me in a shittier vibe. So maybe go to sunnier places. Don't spend that much time in cold places if you are a digital nomad, if you're traveling, or maybe if you can travel more because you can work remotely for a year, especially during COVID times. Then well, agree with your talk with your boss, or if you have one. And I don't know, when it gets colder, once a while, go to a warmer place, spend a few weeks in a warmer place, go back, get some more work done in a regular environment, go back to a warmer place, go back. So that's what really, these are like the things that help me. So if anything from those things resonates with you, then I'd suggest thinking about that. But really, if from all of this I would have to say what's the most important, then I would say fix the biggest physical things in your world. So I'm talking, if you're not working out, work out, or if you're not sleeping, then fix your sleep. So fix the biggest things in the physical, from the physical perspective, and learn to focus on the positive. So after each set, think how you succeeded instead of how you failed. So how does that affect, how does good vibe or bad vibe or different personality types, how does this affect getting coaching? Because this is an important question that I talk with the guys that want to get coaching. If your vibe always sucks and you have a tendency to get depressed, then get coaching in easier, more positive cities. For example, if you are from a warm place in like super positive place, super developed place, then and you know you're prone to depression, then don't really go to Ukraine to get coaching, because it's going to be a bit too tough maybe for you if you are used to getting depressions. But yes, I do prefer coaching in tougher cities simply because it teaches you better game. But it's not for everyone. Maybe you have to choose an easier city. And well, if you want to learn good technical game this season, then well, send me an email to robert@saintrobert.blog, and we'll talk about what's the best place in Europe for you to get coaching. As I said, different guys should learn in different places, and we'll have the conversation to figure out what works best for you. And as I said, I have 2 spots available in September, which can be either Ukraine or somewhere else in the Eastern Europe, or I have 4 spots in October in Spain. And if you are from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, so US, Canada, maybe you're somewhere in South or Central America, I am going to Mexico in November, and I might go to a few warmer places in USA later this year. So whether you want to come down to Mexico or USA, send me an email and we'll talk details as well. Well, that's it for this podcast. Thank you for watching, listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, then as always, give this a thumbs up, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. Ciao.